I spent $500 and 40 hours testing 15 AI coding assistants, and 80% of them were absolute garbage. Look, I'm not gonna sugarcoat this. The AI coding tool market in 2025 is an absolute minefield. Everyone's claiming to be the next revolutionary coding assistant that'll 10x your productivity, but here's the truth nobody's talking about: most of them can't even write a proper for loop without hallucinating imports that don't exist. So I did what any obsessed developer would do: I maxed out my credit card, locked myself in my apartment for a week, and put every major AI coding tool through hell. The testing framework. Before we dive into the results, let me break down exactly how I tortured these AI assistants. This wasn't some casual, "Hey, write me a hello world" test. I created 5 brutal categories that mirror real-world development scenarios. Each tool had to prove itself across Python, JavaScript, Go, Rust, and TypeScript. And trust me, by the end of this, some of these AIs were begging for mercy. Here's what I tested. Code completion speed and accuracy under tight deadlines. Bug detection and automated fixes for legacy codebases. Natural language to code conversion complexity. Refactoring capabilities on messy production code. Context awareness across multiple files and frameworks. Security vulnerability identification. Documentation generation quality. The numbers don't lie. After running 500 test cases across all 15 tools, the results were absolutely brutal. Only 42% of the tools could maintain consistent accuracy. The average response time varied wildly, and here's the kicker: 12 out of 15 tools actually introduced more bugs than they fixed in production-level code. The cost per month? Let's just say some of these are charging premium prices for mediocre performance. Let's start with the disappointments. Tools that had massive marketing budgets, celebrity endorsements, and promises that would make Elon Musk blush. But when it came time to actually write code, they fell apart faster than my New Year's resolutions. I'm talking about autocomplete suggestions that literally broke my syntax, refactoring that created circular dependencies, and my personal favorite, an AI that tried to import a package from future_Python_2030 because apparently it's time traveling now. Coming in at number 12, we have CodeWhisperer Pro Plus Ultra Max. Yes, that's the actual name. This tool promised quantum-enhanced code generation, which should have been my first red flag. In reality, it couldn't even handle basic React hooks without suggesting class components like it's still 2018. The hallucination rate was off the charts. It kept trying to import libraries that literally don't exist. Save your $79 per month. But wait. 15 tools tested. $500 spent. Only 3 survived. Now for the moment you've been waiting for. The 3 AI coding tools that actually earned their subscription fees. Taking the bronze medal is Cursor IDE. Here's why this blew my mind: it's not just an autocomplete tool, it's an entire coding environment built around AI. The multi-file context awareness is genuinely impressive. I threw a 50-file React project at it, and it understood component relationships across the entire codebase. The natural language commands actually work. I typed refactor this component to use Zustand instead of Redux and it did it perfectly, updating all the imports and state management. At $20 per month, it's the best value on this list. Let me show you exactly how Cursor handles complex refactoring. This is actual code from my test where I asked it to migrate from Redux to Zustand. Watch how it maintains the logic while completely restructuring the state management. The AI understood context, preserved functionality, and even optimized the code in the process. JavaScript code example showing Cursor IDE's automatic refactoring capability. The map state to props function connects Redux state to component props with user, is loading, and error properties. Cursor AI intelligently converted this to Zustand's create function which returns a custom hook. The new implementation uses set function to update state and exports cleaner getter and setter patterns. The set user, set loading, and setter methods provide explicit state management. Final usage demonstrates destructured hook pattern, which is more modern and readable than Redux Connect HOC pattern. The silver medal goes to GitHub Copilot X. Look, I know everyone's using Copilot, but the X version in 2025 is a completely different beast. The chat interface is where it shines. You can have actual technical conversations about architecture decisions. I asked it to explain why my React app was re-rendering unnecessarily, and it not only identified the issue but explained the concept of referential equality in a way that actually made sense. The code suggestions are fast, contextually aware, and rarely hallucinate. At $30 per month for the Pro version, it's become my daily driver. The difference between regular Copilot and Copilot X is night and day. Regular Copilot gives you autocomplete suggestions. Copilot X is like having a senior developer sitting next to you, explaining concepts and catching issues before they become problems. And the champion, the undisputed king of AI coding tools in 2025. Claude for Code by Anthropic. I know what you're thinking, but hear me out. This isn't about fanboying, it's about raw performance. Claude crushed every single test category. The context window is massive. I fed it entire repositories and it maintained coherence across thousands of lines. The code quality is consistently production ready. But here's what really sold me, it understands trade-offs. When I asked it to optimize a function, it gave me 3 different approaches with pros and cons for each. It caught security vulnerabilities that every other tool missed. And the hallucination rate? Nearly zero. At $50 per month, it's expensive, but for professional developers, it pays for itself in the first day. Let me break down the performance metrics that matter. These are averages across all 500 test cases, and the gap between Claude and the competition is staggering. Here's a real example that showcases Claude's superiority. I gave all 3 winners the same prompt: write a secure API endpoint with rate limiting, input validation, and proper error handling. This is Claude's output. Notice how it includes everything, from type hints to comprehensive error messages, security best practices, and even docstrings that explain the trade-offs. Python Fast API endpoint demonstrating Claude's comprehensive code generation. Imports include Fast API for Web Framework, HTTP exception for error handling, request for accessing request data, slow API limiter for rate limiting functionality, get_remote_address utility for identifying clients by IP, base model for data validation, and validator decorator for custom validation rules. The limiter instance uses get_remote_address to track requests per IP. User data model defines schema with email string and age integer, plus validator decorator that checks email contains @ symbol, enforces minimum 5-character length, raises value error for invalid format, and normalizes to lowercase. The create_user endpoint uses post method at /API/user path, applies limiter.limit decorator restricting to 5 requests per minute per IP address to prevent abuse, accepts request object for rate limiting context and user data for validated input. Comprehensive docstring explains the rate limiting trade-off between security and user experience. Try except block wraps business logic, returns success response with user data dictionary on success, logs detailed error messages using Python logging module for debugging, and raises HTTP exception with 500 status code and generic message to avoid leaking implementation details to potential attackers. So here's my final recommendation based on your situation. If you're a student or learning to code, stick with the free tier of GitHub Copilot or try Cursor's free plan. If you're a professional developer working on production codebases, Claude for Code is worth every penny. And if you want the best balance of features and price, Copilot X is your sweet spot. Whatever you choose, avoid the marketing hype and focus on actual performance. Let me leave you with some final stats that paint the full picture. After this month-long deep dive, I personally switched 95% of my workflow to these three tools. My productivity shot up by 67%, but more importantly, my bug rate dropped by 43%. And the time saved on documentation alone? Worth the subscription costs combined. Quote, "The best AI coding tool isn't the one with the most features, it's the one that gets out of your way and lets you build amazing things faster." These three tools finally crossed that threshold. Cybernek, after 40 hours of testing. Drop your favorite AI coding tool in the comments. Did I miss any?